Okay, now we're going to ask you guys about, I guess your families didn't have cars a lot of the time when you were young, right? And
That's right.
But then you guys didn't have your license either, but you were talking about how you would get around town on your bicycles.
Yes.
So who wants to go first?
You may.
Okay. Yes, we did not have a car. My father had one early on, but I don't remember us having a car ever. And my father would walk to work at the General Electric Company. Lawrence Park was a bedroom town, about 4,000 people for the General Electric Company. And he had about a mile walk to his work, and then, of course, a mile walk back. And so that's how he got to work. Fred and I walked to school, and the school was probably half a mile away. I always slept to the very last minute, so that I had to run as fast as I could to go cut through the fields to get to school on time. And one time I was probably a junior. Then when I got into the school, I would continue to run to get to my home room. Well, the corner, I zipped at the corner and I knocked the principal down. He was walking in the other direction, and he took it very good-naturedly, and I was so embarrassed and felt so bad because he was such a great principal and everyone loved him, and here I'm running to get to the homeroom before the hour of 8:30, and so that was my MO for getting to school.
And so you would, what was the farthest you would ride your bike to get places?
Oh yes, I love to ride it to the peninsula and then all the way around the peninsula and back. I just loved riding that bicycle.
So how many miles do you think that was?
Well, we were about 5 miles from the center of Erie, and the beginning of the peninsula is probably at least 5 miles west of, so that's probably 10 miles, and then around the peninsula is probably close to 10 miles.
And then you had to get home again.
Yeah, so it was probably about 20 miles.
Yeah.
And I just thoroughly enjoyed the bicycle riding. It was a second-hand bicycle. And with the Depression, my impression was that very few people had money. And so there was a lot of bartering going on. For example, the piano teacher would give lessons, and then someone would paint a room for her, or clean this, or mow the lawn or something, and everyone exchanged services with everyone else.
And Mom, so you guys didn't have a car most of your childhood either, right?
From 1939 through 47, we did not have a car.
And you rode your bike a lot of places too?
I used to ride to the peninsula also, though I didn't go around the peninsula. I just went to the first beach and went swimming.
Oh, you went swimming, okay.
So that was probably 5 or 10 miles each way.
Yes.
As well?
Yeah.
So.
And I used to like to, the lake is here, and as the city builds up, it goes up as it moves south from the lake. So that out in the country, 10, 15 miles would be considerably higher than the lake. It'd be all downhill. So I'd ride out in the country as far as I could go, and I don't know how long it would take me, but it would take me about a third as long to come back, because I would go fast. And of course, in those days you didn't have bicycle helmets.
Oh yeah.
And I was probably going 50 miles an hour. I just sat on my bike and went.
And enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of the Depression?
Yeah, neither of our parents earned a big salary. Everything was always very, very careful, on both sides, from what I've heard from Fran. And we ate frugally, and we always had enough to eat. We had a garden, and we ate as much as we could from the garden. You just didn't do a lot of things that cost money.
Did you guys have a radio?
We did have a radio. Did you have a radio?
Radio?
Yeah.
Yes. I have to tell you about our radio.
Okay, you tell about the radio.
From 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock, they had radio programs like Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy, and Dick Tracy, Tom Mix, and Fred and I thoroughly enjoyed listening to them because they'd always end at a place where you have to find out what's going to happen the next time.
Cliffhanger, they call it.
Cliffhangers,
Yeah.
yes, they were all. But anyways, my father would say, "I've had so much noise at work. Can't you just turn that down or shut it off?" He just, and the factories were very noisy. We understood, but he put up with this.
Mom, did you have any favorite radio programs?
Those were more boy things.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't into it too
So
much.
did you listen, was like radio like an entertainment thing for you guys, or not really?
It was somewhat, and also news. We used to watch The Great Gildersleeve on Sundays, and it was a comedy. And that's when we first heard about the country going into World War II.
Well, that's a great segue. Tell us about life during World War II.
Most of your relatives, young men, would be in the Army. I had at least 4 or 5 cousins, male cousins, that served overseas. And my Uncle Rudy, my father's, one of his younger brothers, he was in India during World War II. Among the cousins, one of them was shot down and was taken prisoner by the Germans, and was in a German prison camp for a year or 2. It was scary to have these relatives there, and there were all kind of restrictions on what you could buy and what you couldn't buy. You had ration stamps, some for meat and some for canned fruits and vegetables. Well, some people used more of one than the other, and they would quietly exchange. Things like shoes, you were only entitled to 1 pair every so often. There were cheaper ones that didn't require a special stamp to prove that you were getting them. But they didn't last worth a darn. And nylon stockings were very difficult. They'd get them in the store, and the line would form instantly, and people would buy them.
Yeah, people don't even wear those anymore.
No,
Isn't that funny? Now, Dad, what do you remember about World War II?
Wait, okay, I thought, okay, let's go back to the Depression before. Yeah, I admired the General Electric Company because, rather than laying off half their employees, all the employees worked half-time. And so they kept cutting back the amount of time that the employees worked, but at least they were still working. And yeah, I remember all the things that Mother's saying about it, and it was real. Yeah, everything was very controlled. The gasoline rationing, so that you could hardly drive your car to church Sundays and back.
So,
There was very
did you?
little the doctors and priests,
They got more gas.
they got more gas.
In fact, there's the joke of a car coming this way and a car coming this way, and this one says, "Hi, Father," and this one says, "Hi, Doctor."
Yes.
Did you have any relatives that fought in the war?
Well, my brother was in the Air Force, and he was in Italy. And we have in Sherman, okay, my grandfather, okay, they came to Erie with my father to get work at the General Electric Company. They got there a couple years before World War I. And my grandfather comes home one time and he says, "Fred, don't enlist. I enlisted today." So he did. My grandfather fought in World War I. And he says, "Fred, take care of Mary." And,
Your sister.
and my father did. And so that oh, yes. I took trigonometry. It was a one semester course in high school. And the original teacher, after 6 weeks, he was 4F, but that means you're not physically well enough to serve in the military. Well, anyways, he was drafted after 6 weeks, so we got another teacher. And this teacher was also 4F, and after 6 weeks, he was drafted. So then we got a third teacher. So I had 3 different teachers for a 18-week course.
My father during World War II, of course, had a fatherhood deferment because there were the 3 of us, my sister Rita having arrived about 2 months before World War II started. He worked full-time at the Pennsylvania Electric Company, but then he worked half-time at Tellers, Oregon. They had boxes that they were putting together for the military. I mean, just hammering wooden boxes so the military could put things in. So he would work from 8 to 5 at Pennsylvania Electric, walk home, eat supper, walk over to Tellers, and start hammering boxes from 6 until 10,
Ooh.
5 days a week.
So every able-bodied person had to have a job of, such a contrast from the Great Depression. Then all of a sudden, there's more work than there is for people to do.
Oh, Dad, you wanted to talk about your father and the building of St. Mark's Church?
Yes. As probably around 1938, the Depression had been going on for many years. We had no Catholic church in Norris Park. And so we did have a priest and they rented a hall. And we did have mass there for a couple years, but then we wanted to have a church. And they decided that if all the men in the parish would work on building the church, they could afford to have the church. So my father felt, my father was a big, strong man, very strong. And so the first thing you do is dig for the foundation. And he says that I won't be able to do the more skilled work later on, the plumbing, electrical, carpentry. So I'll work every night now on digging for the foundation. And he did. So then they got to other things like the electrical work, and they said, "Fred, we need you to help us with the electrical stuff." And he says, "Well, I don't know how to do any electrical work. We'll teach you. You're a fast learner." And they did. It was same thing with the plumbing, the carpentry. So he pretty much worked continuously until they finally put the crucifix on the top of the steeple.
Okay, now we're going to start talking about where you guys went to college and how you paid for it. Mom,
I went to Mercyhurst College. It was about 2 miles from our house to Mercyhurst. It was south of town. Tuition in those days was $250 a semester, $500 a year, and I got a college scholarship of $100 a semester. But I didn't. My parents were not wealthy; they could not afford even the other remaining amount, but they could loan it to me, and At least that's my recollection. I'm not quite sure how that all worked out. And I paid for it after I graduated. I majored in math and minored in chemistry. Got a very good education there. The Sisters of Mercy taught the school, and they were very capable. The school was in its early days, though. They were just about making it financially. There were 40 in my graduating class, and they also had a high school in the buildings. Just a women's high school and a women's college. Now the high school has moved out elsewhere in the city, and there's as many men as there are women.
Because it was all women when you went there.
It was all women. I used to get a chuckle out of what would happen. We would be sitting in the library all studying, and Father Latimer taught religion class, and he would start walking across the library, and you could tell by his stride that it was a man, not a woman, and every head went up and looked around. Where is this male figure? Oh, it's only Father Latimer.
You graduated like at about the top of your class, right?
I had missed a semester at one time and went in the summertime, and because of that I had enough credits to graduate, but they based where you graduated from on the basis of how many classes and what you got in them. So I think I was cum laude, but I was not at the top necessarily.
Yeah. And what year did you graduate from college?
52.
Okay.
Great things happened in 1952.
Yes.
Yep, 61 years ago. Dad, tell us about your college, like where you went and what you studied.
Well, my brother Fred came back in February from the war.
February
of 1946. And so he enlisted, he enrolled at Gannon College. Gannon was just getting started, so it was really a brand new college. It was named Gannon after the Bishop John Mark Gannon in Erie. And so it was at that time the veterans had the GI Bill of Rights, and they had college for free, was paid for by the government, so they had no tuition, and then they were given an allowance every month. And so Fred gave all that allowance money to our mother and father. So anyways, and I started college at Gannon after I graduated, which was June of 1946. So Fred was a semester ahead of me. And he went into the business, and I went into the math and science. I got a degree in, well, again, with the mathematics major and a philosophy minor. My mother was very good money handler, and when before I started again, I remember we had an assistant priest who would say mass at St. Mark's. We had our church now, and he was a very good priest. And this one day, we'd just gotten our report cards, and he was there, and then he asked to look at my report card. It was essentially all A's, and he says, "I'm going to see that you get a scholarship to Gannon." And he did. So that was a big help. And then he eventually became president of Gannon College, Father Wilford Nash. And so then I wanted to study engineering, and then did not have engineering. So,
At the time.
at the time. Right, yes. And so I applied a number of other colleges, and I remember I had a congressional scholarship to go to the University of Pennsylvania, and I was thinking, well, I'd like to go there. And but anyways, it turned out they were full up, and they couldn't let me come there anyways. However, Penn State made a real effort to admit as many people as they could, and they built these dormitory, barracks type dormitories. And tuition at Penn State at the time was $100 a semester. And I was a waiter in dormitories, and that took, well, also I was waiter in the girls' dormitory, and that, so you got your supper for free for waiting on table, and then it was just a matter of breakfast, which is not very expensive, and of course I would fill up at supper time. And so then I did enjoy, I've always enjoyed the academic stuff. And after I got the bachelor's degree, then I worked at Hamilton Standard in Hartford, Connecticut. And then they paid for me to get a master's degree at Penn State.
All right. And so when did you graduate from Penn State with your master's?
Yeah, okay, I started with Gannon. I went to Penn State, first of all. It was fall of 1940. I was there for, no, I started Penn State in the February semester. So I had 5 semesters at Gannon, then I started Penn State. So that would have been early 48, I think, February of 48. And so I went there for a year, and then that summer I was very close to getting a degree from Gannon, so I went to Gannon, and then I went back to Penn State for another year, and this time the school year was over in June of 49. So I had my last final exam early in the morning, and I started hitchhiking back home. And that was the days when lots of people hitchhiked and lots of people picked up hitchhikers. No one had started to steal cars, hitchhike and steal the car, injure the driver and all that. So anyways, what amazed me, I had many rides. I go from this little city to this little city, and they were all about 10 or 15 miles. And I probably had 10 or 15 different rides, and I got home just in time to go to the young adults club. So, being typical young man, I looked around for the prettiest girl. And there she was. My beloved wife. So then we enjoyed dancing, and after the dance we went to some place where we could, ice cream parlor type, where we could talk and visit. So I soon realized she was not just a pretty face, she was a brilliant person and a good Catholic.
Thank you.
Mom, tell us your side of the story of the night you met.
I was never very popular with boys, and did go to these dances because I felt I wanted to marry somebody someday, and I had to meet them someplace. So I went with this girlfriend of mine, who was very popular. So we walk in together side by side, and immediately before we could get to the sit down or anything, somebody asked her to dance. I'm standing there fuming. Why do I put myself through this? This is terrible. I'm going to spend my whole night just standing here. And so inside of me, it's just... And then he looks up and says, I'm beautiful.
Was that their first words to her?
No, but I meant just...
Oh, now, yeah. Well, what did he say to you? Do you remember, like, what he said?
Did I have this dance or whatever?
Uh-huh. So, and what kind of dancing did you guys do? Like, was it...
I don't think either of us were great dancers.
Yeah.
Yes.
But somehow it was, just whatever they were playing.
Yes, it tended to be slow music. We did
Yeah.
do what they call jitterbug too.
Yeah, we did do that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what date was that you met?
Maybe? Go ahead. 28.
This is the 28th. Okay, May 28th, 1949.
49.
I had graduated from high school a year before. I just finished 1 year in college, so.
And what was your, so you danced that night. What was your first date then? I think.
A couple days later, it was Memorial Day, and we went to Waldemar.
Yes.
Which
And-
was,
Was an amusement park, and at the end of the evening, they had fireworks because of being Memorial Day. I think Fred he was dating Nancy at the time, and Fred would leave Fred off at the nightclub that she was singing at, and then he'd get the car, Fred's car, and so we would have a car for the date. Then after Fred left me off, he would go pick up Fred, who I'm not sure how Nancy fit in on the picture there.
what was a typical date for you guys?
Did we go to a movie? I think we did. Movie or Waldemar. We did go golfing that summer
Yes.
together. I'm not good athletically, so it was really a cross for him to bear. And we also went to the Presque Isle and swam.
Yes. Speaking of Baltimore, I love the calendar for the Orange Park schools. It's very simple. School would always end the day before Memorial Day. It would always start up the day after Labor Day. And at the end of the school year, there was a day when everyone would go to Baltimore. So here you had a day at Baltimore, and you had all these rides and stuff. You just had a fun time.
What was your wedding like?
Very beautiful, thank you. We got engaged at Christmas time in 1951, and we decided to get married in June right after I graduated from college. There were 4 of us in that class of 41 girls that got married on the 4 Saturdays in June, and we had picked June 21st. When we went to the priest house to find out what days were available, pretty much the 11 o'clock mass on June 21st was it. So that fit us just fine. What else? Why don't you tell about your visitor that morning?
Oh, was that?
Floyd Bradley.
Yes. Yes. Floyd was a very good friend. He worked at Hamilton Standard with me, and he graduated from Notre Dame. And he had gone to Notre Dame to be married, and so he and his wife were coming back, and he stopped off at my house, and he and his wife, and So I was just getting ready to be married also. So that was beautiful.
They were like a week apart in their
Mhm.
wedding days.
Yes.
Um,
You want to take another break?
no,
No? Okay.
I was going to talk about I had 3 attendants, Lean Aarons, Margie Sweda, and my sister Rita. Lean was bridesmaid, or maid of honor. And Margie Sweda was a bridesmaid, and then my sister was a junior bridesmaid because she's 11 years younger than I am. And I was 21, so she must have been 10. Fran had 3 attendants too. His brother was best man, and Norbert was an usher, and so was Bob Yodeski.
Yes, very good.
Okay. Of these, only our family have we ever seen since. I do still send a Christmas card to Helene, but that's it. I lost complete track of March
Yeah.
Swede.
Right after you got married, you moved, right? So-
Well, Dad had been working in Connecticut, but since his family was in Erie and my family was, and we both were natives, it was the logical place to have it. We
Yeah.
got married at St. John's Church. More recently, we went back there for our 55th anniversary, and the people were very, very welcoming, because we told them we were married there 55 years ago.
All right. I'm thinking, why don't we take like another break and then maybe like another half hour? Is that okay? Is that too much?